I enjoy working with people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy trying to be the answer, or part of the answer to a lot of the problems we deal with this, right now. God, 2020 has dealt us a lot of stuff to deal with. But I feel like this is why I was put here. This is why people are here on the planet, not to be the problem, but to try to be part of the answer. My name is Rabi'a Keeble. I guess I'm best known for starting a women's mosque here in the Bay Area in Berkeley in 2017. And it's considered a women's mosque only in that it is women-led. It is an inclusive mosque, which means men can join, men can participate. Everyone prays together. Everyone is loving and accepting of each other. There's no hierarchy based on gender. I also work with EPHO on the Faith and Justice Committee. And EPHO is the East Bay Housing Organization that basically works very hard to ensure that people have safe and sufficient housing. And that includes working with the unhoused population here in the East Bay. More recently, I was asked to be the co-chair of the American Friends for Combatants for Peace, which is an Israeli-Palestinian nonprofit that was Nobel nominated for the work that they're doing to try to draw attention to what's going on in Palestine. It came as kind of part of working as a faith leader, that women not necessarily saw me as someone who could help them. They come to me for advice, and a lot of times they come for help. In the case of them being Muslim and coming to me as a Muslim woman, is how much of what's happening in my home is because the Quran allows my husband to do these things. And that's a really difficult question to answer, mainly because there is at least one very troubling verse in the Quran that appears to give men permission to strike, or hit a woman. It's not easy navigating around that. It's easier now because more people are actually taking it on, so-called scholars, and researchers and academics are stepping up and, trying to address, like, what does this verse really mean? We have the issue of language, like, what did it mean in the original Arabic? What does the word mean? Does it mean strike? Does it mean correct? Does it mean, I believe, given that it was written, or at least transmitted, in the 7th century in Arabia, that doesn't necessarily mean that here in 2020, we need to embrace that as if it was a command. It's not a command. Basically, what it's doing is saying, in the past, you guys have done too much. You've beaten up women. You've killed women because they offended you. Now I'm asking you to step back, take these steps, think it through, talk to the family, talk to her, do this, do that. And if she continues to displease you, now mind you, I'm only referring to what's written and how it's sometimes practiced. If she continues to disappoint you or to be disobedient, then it's okay to strike her. Again, this is in the context of 7th century Arabia. This is in context of things that had been really so bad on one end that this was considered a correction. Domestic violence is a huge problem, not just among Muslims, among a lot of different parts of our society.
The fact that religion is very deeply ingrained in human identity in general. now that human beings have evolved so much, like you said, what applied in 7th century Arabia isn't necessarily appropriate for today. So with all of your effort and all of my effort to change things, in your opinion, what is the likelihood that we're going to be able to really make a dent as far as the influence that religion has over the justifications for domestic violence?
We have to look at the seminaries that graduate the people that lead the churches. We have to look at how, rabbis, priests, ministers, imams, how they are trained to take on leadership of a diverse congregation. And that, when I say diverse, I mean not just men, but women and others. Mm-hmm. And if they are not being trained in their seminaries to address domestic violence and how sometimes religion enables it, then they're not being properly trained. How does somebody graduate seminary and not have, say, a certificate or at least some proof that they attended a domestic violence seminar or something, so that they're at least aware that they have the basics and that they can do more later if they want to take some additional courses, but that we have the foundation that when they're calling, when a congregation person calls and says, pastor or rabbi or imam, I need to come in and talk to you because I'm having issues with my husband hitting me, that they won't just say, oh, well, sister, go and pray about it. It's sister, it's your job to please him so that he won't hit you. It's your job to cook the food so he won't be disappointed and then strike out at you. We need more than that coming from our faith leaders. We need our faith leaders to hold men accountable. Faith tells us to be peaceful. Faith tells us to be kind and to practice justice. It's not just about, correcting people and making sure that, we say a certain number of prayers, dress a certain way, that's all outward stuff. Just because we come through these patriarchal structures doesn't mean that they're right. There has been in this country the institution of racism. Is it right? White people are natural leaders. Do you believe that? They believe it. We can't just accept this stuff on face value. When someone says, well, we have what we have now in the United States because white people are natural leaders and they're natural, blah, 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 blah. And we say, that's just not true. Equally yoked is not just for Christians. It's not just for people of faith. Equally yoked extends out and dwells among all of us. My best equally yoked person was a hippie, because I was a hippie. Then we talk about being hippies, or like Motown, we can sit around and talk about Motown, or can dance salsa, which I love. My best mate is a man who can dance salsa. Okay, so that's equally yoked. But that's not equally yoked for a lot of people, right?
Yep.
So equally yoked is not a religious idea. It is a wise idea that extends beyond religion. Domestic violence, I'm going to speak from as a Muslim woman, and I'm going to say this, it's mostly a cultural thing.
Okay.
I think that even in the Black culture in America, that you will see men who are raised up believing it's okay to hit women. You're not a man. You're not a man if you're not an ogre guarding the drawbridge. and everybody's afraid of you. These are some of the things that I think we deal with as women, especially in the Black community. I don't know if your ex was Black or not, but I think specifically in the Black community, we deal with that too.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with it in the Muslim community, which is very diverse. It's Black, it's white, it's Middle Eastern, it's Asian, it's everything, you know. And all of these people come from different cultures, and they bring their own ideas about male supremacy and patriarchy into the religion, and therefore into their marriages. Men who are violent, men who strike out, have a lot of wounds themselves. They have a lot of anger. It may be towards their own mother, maybe towards their own father. Being with somebody else it can be triggering if there's some stress inducer in the marriage, you know. Grooming is used by child molesters. Grooming is used by all abusers because they generally don't come right out and show you who they are. They create a scenario to weaken you, first of all, to make you trust them, and then they start to attack you. Are we taught as women to vet men? No, we're taught to be like Cinderella or these fairy tale things, like, and then we'll live happily ever after.
Yes.
You know. No. We have to be like business people. When he comes around, where were you? Oh, I was blah, blah. Okay, well, here's how I roll. You've got to be accountable from the very beginning. If he's showing signs of not wanting to be accountable, is he going to be good for you?
Nope.
No. We have to also teach our young women that love is great, is wonderful, but love can be a narcotic that can make you sleep through those red flags that he's throwing up. If we paid attention, we wouldn't get ourselves mixed up with people who are going to groom and manipulate and abuse us. We'd recognize them from the beginning. But just say we have a very good one who is very good at it, and we don't pick it up. We don't pick it up until a year, 2, 3, because he's walking that narrow line. I think the same thing applies. When you see that red flag go up, I don't care if it's 5 years later, that's the time to sit down and go, I'm so sorry. But I'm concerned. When we got into a heated argument, you reached over and you grabbed me. That ain't ever gonna happen again.
Not wanting to mix your damage with someone else's damage because children are involved, or if children even aren't involved, you know, you haven't fully healed and you want to be able to satisfy your need for companionship, but you still have yet to heal.
We have to recognize that we have those places we need to heal, and quite often that just doesn't happen as we're like getting a job, going to school. We're so busy, we don't tend to our needs. You know, we don't go, oh gee, you know, I need to go take that retreat and deal with the trauma of my father having beaten my mother up in front of me. Or all the traumas that I saw as a child, they're going to affect my marriage. They're going to affect every relationship that I have. I need to take some time off from all this grinding, you know, and getting money and take care of that because it's going to affect me. We don't do that.
Yeah.
We just don't do it. And I watch Ayanla. I don't know if you watch Ayanla, Fix My Life. She's, you know, she's good. She's good. Everybody may not like how she does it, but she's good. And what I love is that she's getting Black people to be open about their traumas, because Black people were secret keepers. Like, you didn't talk about the fact that grandpa was a pedophile. You didn't talk about the fact that uncle drank or that cousin was gay. You didn't talk about it. All that stuff was kept like in this oven of dirt in the family that you never got to process it, and you never got to talk about it, you know. And Black people were secret keepers. And I like the fact that Iyanla is making it okay for us to talk about that stuff and to work through it. When someone who is very damaged, and we all are to some extent, comes together with somebody else who hasn't addressed their issues, it just really makes a mess. Because then how do you raise children up? How do you raise children up and they don't inherit your mess?
They naturally will.
They naturally
will. And they will in a way that is now coming to light in several studies. What I'm finding is that doctors and scientists are understanding that trauma is genetically passed down from generation to generation.
Yes. And it alters us. It alters our brain.
Yeah.
Trauma alters the brain. Trauma alters our body chemistry. Trauma alters everything. So that's why we need to be careful about how we live. How we live. I remember I was pregnant with my first child, and I was at my mother's house, and somebody was watching Godzilla. My mother said, "Don't look at it." She said, "You're carrying a child. If you look at it, it's going to mark your baby." They didn't have the scientific nor specific language. But what she was saying is trauma imprints upon the next generation. If you go and watch that scary thing and you get scared and your brain starts going, but what if there's a Godzilla? And what if, and oh my God, it's sending chemical signals to my fetus. It is changing something in the brain of my baby. My mother, in her way, said, don't expose your child to trauma, because it won't end there.
That was one of the major, things that caused me to leave when I left. I have a 6-year-old, and I was married. And at one point, I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I'm really thinking about the situation. And I have here on the left, in my mind, I have his dad, and then I have my son, who is helpless. And you have here a grown adult who knows exactly what it is that they're doing. And my son was gifted to both of us to take care of. He's on loan from God for us to take care of. So what type of parent would I be if I didn't place the priority on the helpless child, make the decision to take care of and prioritize the helpless individual in the situation, as opposed to perpetuating bad behavior, perpetuating abuse, enabling? I was like, this is a fairly easy decision at this point. We cannot be a part of this anymore. And
it takes courage. It takes sacrifice of a monumental level for a woman to step up and say, I'm going to put my baby first, damn it. This man, I can get another man. It may not happen quick, but I can get another man. I can't make this child again.
That's right.
So it is so important, and you said it so well. These children sit and watch stuff and hear stuff. And I know when I was growing up, people sort of thought children were empty
vessels.
That just, you could do anything around them, and, oh, well, they'll go and play the next 5 minutes. They may be going and playing, but guess what? They've absorbed that trauma.
Yep, every bit of it.
And guess what? 50 years later, somebody will say, well, when they were fighting, do you remember what your dad? Yes, I remember everything my father said. Children are not empty. They're hearing you. They're watching. And they may not look you in the eye and say, damn, did you really say that? No, they'll be like this.
Because they don't have the capability of processing it.
Nor the safety. What are they going to do? They see an out of control adult. It's like watching Godzilla. It's like if Godzilla entered this room and started screaming, I'd be like, too.
Right.
Okay. So basically, a little kid watching out of control adults yelling, screaming, threatening. It's a trauma that they will never forget. I applaud any woman. I applaud her if she looks at her baby and says, I'm getting you out of this. Yeah. If he was in a burning house, you do the same thing. You'd be like, buddy, we're getting out of here.
When I look at my son, he's the most beautiful thing in the world. Period. He's the most beautiful and innocent thing in the world.
Yes.
And I would never, ever forgive myself if I didn't put him first.
And that is the truth. You have a little soul. You have a little body that looks to you for everything. And that is the contract you made when you made him. That I will provide everything, keep you safe no matter what. That's the contract you have with his soul. When we make love and we bring these beings into existence, we have made a contract with heaven that we are going to protect them. We're going, and protecting them means that we are leaving them able to have a relationship with God. Scarred people don't have good relationships with God. Because then God becomes that overbearing father, mother. Okay?
Yep.
The contract we make when we lay down is that I'm doing this and it may bring a soul into this world. So many times women have called me and they go, oh, he's hitting me. I've got to get out of the house. Where do I go? I said, I wish I could tell you where to go, because you call a lot of shelters and they're full. Or you call shelters and they say, well, you can't bring children. Or you call shelters and they're dirty or bad people are in there. We don't really take seriously that we need to provide for women to get out of bad spots. It's just a fact.
Yeah. I had one police officer tell me once, and this, mind you, this is the only one that ever came at me in this way. He told me to just deal with it. And I was floored. I was floored. Like, what is the point of you sitting here behind this desk with that badge and with that uniform, having the power that you have, and you're not going to help me? I'm telling you that I need some help.
They're not trained to do that. That's the bottom line. Cops are trained to respond to problems. They are not counselors. They are not therapists. They are not any of those things. So when he's saying, he's being honest. Okay, then find me somebody who can give. When I called the police and they came here, because I separate, I'll give you just a snippet. I separated from this was my second husband. I separated from him because he was abusive. I told him, get out of my house. We had been separated for perhaps 2 months, and the management of our apartment building wouldn't take his keys because they said, well, he remains on the lease legally. We can't take his keys. And I was like, okay, but I'm afraid that he's going to enter my apartment. Well, 2 o'clock one morning, I'm sleeping. He opens the door. He comes in, doesn't say a word to me, takes off all his clothes, and decides he's going to have sex. And when I tell him, because I have the presence of mind, I say, do you understand that if I refuse to have sex with you, you're committing a rape? He goes, oh no, I can't rape my own wife. And he proceeded to do that. And that was a rape.
That was marital rape.
That was marital rape. Because I fought him. I told him, I do not want to do this with you. I don't love you anymore. I don't want you in my apartment. Nothing. I called the cops. And the cop that showed up, he did what cops can do. And that is he gave me resources. And he told me to go to the hospital and get a checkup, and so they could collect evidence. And he told me this. That's what cops do. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's the only conduit we have as survivors. That's all we have. We call the cops and we expect everything out of a cop, and cops are just not that.
I'm so sorry you experienced that.
You know what? He's an ass. He'll suffer. I'm not worried about that. Mm-hmm. I'm not. I have, my faith is in God. Mm-hmm. That I did love him and care for him and do all the things that I believe a partner holds up their side of the bargain in a marriage. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And, when he committed a crime. When people choose to commit a crime, that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Nothing. Cops are very limited in what they can provide us as domestic abuse survivors. Mm-hmm. They can come and arrest him. They can work with the DA to make sure he goes to jail and stays in jail. Mm-hmm. That's what cops do. But cops are not therapists. And they're not going to sit and hold your hand. If you find one that does, good for you. But that's not their job. Mm-hmm. I wish that there was a means to immediately get someone the help that they need. And we just don't have those structures in place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And these days, they're arresting women. If you fight back, if he attacks you and you hit him back, and he just happens to call 911, mm-hmm. they'll arrest you. And you're not the one who even started it.
Mm-hmm. It's your word against his.
They have this thing now where they go, well, whoever calls 911, we arrest the other one. That's what they do now. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Women have to fight these ridiculous things. They have to, because men are getting away with it. I hate to say it, but they are. They're just getting away with it. We've got to make sure that churches, synagogues, mosques, temples, that they have all the information and resources, so women don't necessarily even have to talk to a clergyman or a clergywoman. They can just find a flyer on a bulletin board and go, I need to talk and get some counseling or whatever it is. We have to be smarter. We have to live smarter. The society really doesn't take care of us.
Right. We do. We have to enable ourselves. I find that most women either find themselves helpless because of how they were raised, or they've been so manipulated down to like a pulp that they don't feel they don't have it within themselves to fight for themselves, to seek help, to seek counseling.
But what comes out of these discussions is that we realize we need resources. We need to educate clergy. We need to educate even police departments. We need to educate judges. Mm-hmm. And why aren't there more places for women to go to get away from these men? Some of these churches need to open up shelters. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They have enough money. You know, they have enough space. Some of these, have you ever been in some of these big old churches that have empty rooms? Why can't they put a few beds in there and make that into a temporary shelter?
Absolutely.
Because nobody's asking them. We need to do more. We need to demand more. Everything that I have experienced in terms of what the more is like a lot of cities or counties open up these family justice law centers, these sort of one-stop shopping. You can get your restraining order, you can get a counselor, you can do, you know, all this, you know, all in one place. And that's good because that answers one part of the question. The immediate issue is getting that woman to a safe place and a place where she can actually relax and get her mind right so she can start working on those other things. That's the part that's missing between the act and her getting to safety. Have healthier relationships. Now we can't base what we do now on the mythologies that exist in some religion. Religion is many things. A lot of it is myth. A lot of it is storytelling to get across points. But it didn't in fact happen that way, you know. We can't rely on religion as women. We have to rely on our own strengths.